My name is Arif Ahmed Mir, and this is my story for the Colourful Heritage. Well, I was born in 1936, August 28th, in Radan, near Larkana, which is Mr. Bhutto was born there too. We were in Raiwind, and my father was in the railway, and he was a track maintenance inspector. And we were living about 2 miles outside Raiwind, and we had a bungalow, and we had servant quarters where the servants lived. And it was very much outside, and we were surrounded by Sikhs. There were the villages, surrounding villages were all by Sikhs, and the Sikhs used to pass, because our house was very close to the railway track, and people used to use the railway track for walking, and they used to pass our house, and they were always on horseback, and they used to have what was called in Punjabi barchi, but it's a bayonet stuck on a bamboo, and they used to do the magic thing, which was of course threatening. I think we were very lucky. We were very lucky because if Raiwind, there was a news coming in that the Lahore is going to be halved. And if Lahore would have been halved, we could have been in the wrong half, because Raiwind was there. And we were very worried. But my father had very good arrangement. He had all 300 workers surrounding our house. So there was very less danger of, but if it would have gone in India, I don't think we would survive, because the Sikhs there were only 2 Muslim families. One was store manager, and one was, my father was a railway inspector. And the 2 people were outside, and all the villages were Sikh villages. There was Bolewala, Bombay, Puchoki, these villages, and the Sikhs were targeting us. But what actually happened was, as we came into Pakistan, the things went totally different way. I remember a small incident where 90 Hindu people were killed. And they were killed right down to the railway track. And one woman was kidnapped by a Muslim guy, a Hindu woman, and he was taking her away. When she saw my father, big guy with all the guys, she shouted, "Help." So my father, she challenged the guy and rescued the woman. And I'll never forget that story, because her husband was murdered, and her child was in the dead bodies, and she was kidnapped by this guy, who was absolutely an evil person. And when she said to my father rescued her. First thing she says, "Sir, my husband is killed, but my child is there alive. So if you could help me." So my father sent 4 guys, and they searched the dead bodies, and the child was alive. So they brought the child, and we kept the Hindu woman for 8-10 days. Hindu, Om Prakash, I still remember his name. I remember his face even. Dayal Singh, Sikh. A Christian boy, Robert, and me. We were the 4 boys. How I'm saying that we were the clever one. We were competing with one another. And when the partition happened, when we went back after summer holidays, the Hindu Sikhs had disappeared. And I remember we never seen them again. I came 2 years later. I would never have come if my sister was not here. I'm not one of those guys who is adventurous. I'm very careful. I take my steps very, very careful. I'm not one guy who will get up one day and say, "I'm going." No, because I expected hostility. I said, the British people whom we have hammered them to get them out, and now we will go into their country. It was not acceptable. But I did come, When I came first, I had a terrible impression of this place. I had a terrible impression of this place because I arrived from London and it was so dreadful. It was the month of February and it was dark. The buildings were black and the fog was enormous. So I'm coming from a light from Karachi to this place. So I asked a taxi driver, take me to Gibson Street. And he took me to Gibson Street. Having said that, the weather outside was atrocious. The buildings were ready to fall. You know, it's 50 Gibson Street where I lived, was opposite the Green Gate, you know, the Sheesh Mahal, which was later on Sheesh Mahal. And that's, but I said to myself, I said, I have done a most horrible thing to come to this country because it was bitter cold. And my grandfather gave me his coat. You know, I didn't have a long coat. His coat was it was like a vagrant. You know the guys who are poor, and it was, my jacket was right to my knees. I got the job in chartered accountant as an apprentice. As an apprentice, I got the job, and I worked there for 5-6 months. And to my horror, and the biggest shock to my life, my father died because I left him in Pakistan in pretty poor situation, and he relied on me awful lot. He was very close to me. And once I got a job, I was to go to Iran, but the problem was the Iran business was, you know, it was always problems there in Iran. So I landed up in the office and I worked there for 9 years. And I had such a beautiful relationship that after 5 years, I told my boss, I want to go to Pakistan on holidays. And he says, don't worry, we'll do something. I said, but they're only 2 weeks holidays. So what I said would do, I'll not take 2 years holidays and you can give me 4 weeks. He says, that's a great idea. So instead of 4 weeks, he gave me 6 weeks holidays. And when I went to Pakistan, my mother was very, very keen. She didn't want me to get married in Scotland. And she says to me, you have to get married here. And then, and of course, marriage was so quick, it was unbelievable, you know. I mean, I got married in 2 weeks. And I sent invitation to my office people. And they were all laughing. He says, Arif, we wanted to hire a plane to come to your wedding. When I got married to my wife, we were just going absolutely, we seemed to have hit. I'm amazed when I look at my relationship with my wife, that within 2 days, it was absolutely, I was so fond of my wife. You know, and my mother thought that it will cause, my mother thought it will cause problems, that I am going to marry her just for sake of marriage. And it was really, I saw her and I was all over the place. Then I went to Deputy High Commissioner, I got her papers sorted out, everything. Within 4 weeks, I brought her over here. And then we had the job. Of course, we went to London. And London, there was a job advertised. And I was getting here £1,000. They offered me 2,000. I went there. They thought I was Jewish because Arif, the English guy who recruited me, he says to them, it's Mr. Mir coming from Scotland. He didn't tell that he's a Pakistani. He didn't tell anything. And when I went there to get the job, I got the job. When they saw me, they were all very worried that this is a Muslim, you know. And I lasted there 4 months. I lost a job there. I was put out. And I came to Glasgow. And I'll never forget my experience of going to Peru 1 week. That put me off for my life going to Peru. I got £11 and I'll never forget that experience because I was all with the, you know, smokers and all this. I'm a very tidy kind of person. So I was worried. I looked as if it was a newspaper lying on the floor where they said, Shell filling station operators needed. And I just picked up the phone, phoned them. And later on found out the Shell management told me, we should have sent you a Rolls Royce. He said, we couldn't believe a guy with so much experience wants a petrol station. And they gave me the petrol station. He told me, the manager told me, he said, we should have sent you a Rolls Royce to bring you over. And when I got the petrol station, after 3 months, I said to the guy that could I get another one? And they were having such a problem. They were losing £2,000 a week. And they gave me for nothing. Well, the biggest thing is, we are from Pakistan. We are Muslims. We should be honest and trustworthy and represent our country. These are the three main things, because we've got a very bad reputation. At that time, it was a very bad reputation. And you know, the Shell gave me credit. You know, they asked me, have you got any money? And I said, I've none. And they told me, I should have told them. I went to my bank manager and got £1,000 overdraft. The Shell gave me an open credit. I was selling petrol and not paying for petrol. And I had £150,000 in my bank account. And this is the quality of a person. We never ran away. The Scots guy, when they owed Shell £10,000, they ran away. They take over pubs, and they collect the first taking, and they run away. Now, that is not the business way. You have to be. I remember the Shell guy came, he said, Mr. Mir, you owe me £100,000. I said, whenever you want. I gave him a check. He didn't put in for 6 months in the bank. He trusted me so much. My identity, I love Scotland. I think Scotland has given me tremendous amount of happiness. We have most beautiful house, beautiful children. But I find half of my family is intermingled with Scottish people. And they're so friendly. And you know, we have brought so much culture to this country. Our way of life, which people didn't like. But our way of life is a beautiful way of life. Joint family, big house, living together, close, having fun, parties. It's fantastic. I was very lucky. You know, when I go petrol stations, you know, they have a problem in this country of Catholics. Now, when I came into business, I gave jobs to all the Catholics. And Catholics in the 60s, nobody gave job to Catholic. They asked you, which school do you go? And you said so and so, and they didn't ask you. I gave part-time jobs to all the students. And the students are the best people. They have got a program of education. And this part-time job is financing them. And when that happens, they were never late, they were never absent, they never stole. The professional garage people, they steal. But because I was employing these people, I gave them chances. And I had one woman who was a Catholic, and she came from clothing business to work for me on petrol station, putting petrol. At that time, there was no self-service. And she was very happy. And she stayed with me for 44 years. Now, I think that was a great, the time I came, at that time, the Catholic people had broken into the job market. It's a very tight, it's a racist, it's a religious bias, bigotry, everything in this country. But now, the flood has gone the other way around. My identity, I'm Pakistani. And I'm also Scottish, because I've lived more in this country than in Pakistan.